Hi everybody, this is Hob.
This is Jamie.
And this is Dutch and Dragons.
Yay, Dutch and Dragons.
The weekly show where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons and all the fun things you can do with Dungeons and Dragons, or at least as a game master or player of Dungeons and Dragons. Today we are doing something a little bit different. We are doing
a theme box in the pink box.
And our theme today is
Session Zero. Ba, 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 ba.
So before we get started on that, and I think we've answered this question previously, but we have to answer the question of what is Session Zero. And so
Session Zero is a session typically done before your adventure begins, where you set up the expectations of the adventure, you help your players develop their characters, get the team ready. It's sort of like all of the backstage setup for the game.
So, again, and since you already sort of answered that, when does Session Zero happen? It happens before any actual gameplay.
Yeah, well, ideally it happens before any actual gameplay. However, I have done mid-game Session Zeros, which sound really weird, and we're going to order coffee, and then I'll tell you about that.
Hey, it's going all right.
What can I get for you today?
I would like a small iced extra shot coconut milk caramelizer. And a small iced coconut milk German chocolate mocha.
Mochas.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
No? Alright, and then, cash card?
Card.
Bet. It's gonna be 10.20.
There you go.
You normally do the 3-shot caramelizer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? And then, I know you switch it up a bit.
I do. I switch it up every now and
get
again.
like a smoothie or like a lemonade sometimes, so...
Sometimes I like a good frost or a... Yeah.
Sure. Alright, well, good seeing you too. Have a great one.
Thank you.
So typically, Session Zero is, yes, before the session, Zero. However, I have found that Session Zero can also be a good way to bring a game back on rails. So if you have a game that's just totally derailed, or you are playing a long campaign and the style of campaign has kind of gradually changed, I actually think it can be helpful sometimes to... right before go, okay, we're going to have like a mini Session Zero, because in long games, your characters change, character development changes, the style of game changes, and so there can come a time where it can be very helpful to sort of bring the game back into focus, to kind of stop and say, we're going to do a mini Session Zero because things have changed.
Not a bad way to look at it. So, we've got a big box of questions, and we're going to pull them at random.
Ready? Dun, 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 dun. What tool do you find most helpful to help players understand the game expectations you have?
We have taken to using...
a syllabus.
Basically a syllabus, yeah. So what we do is we'll write up an adventure synopsis or summary,
like what you read on the back of a book.
Yeah, like a book dust cover or a dust jacket, to explain the kind of adventure or what the adventure premise is. And then we put in anything that we want in terms of number of players, character level, things that they might need to know about the world if we're changing worlds, which does not happen often.
I like to include something like what every 5th grader knows about your world. So if there was a big war that everybody talks about, like a good example would be like in the Harry Potter thing. People know who Voldemort is because he's a big prominent bad guy.
Right.
It's like everyone knows who Hitler is or Stalin. Like these sorts of World War I, World War II kind of events.
Yeah. So sort of the what everyone should know about the world and about the campaign setting, as if the common knowledge items,
Yeah,
right?
it's the common knowledge stuff. Not stuff that they're going to find out via the game, but just
Right.
background information that makes it easier for them to ask intelligent questions during the game.
And during their character creation process as well.
All right, next question.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Should I talk to my players about healing, death, and resurrection?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you should establish ahead of time what the rules are for those within your game if you use something outside of what is in the rules as written. And there are alternatives. There are about a billion of them. Matt Mercer has his own. There are alternatives in the player's handbook.
Yep.
I have my own, and she has her own.
I do.
So everybody works it a little bit different.
Yeah. All right, ready?
Yep.
How do you help your players talk to one another about their character beyond class? Ooh, this is important because, and this is an example that I like to use. I've had a situation where I had players at a table and one of my players says, I'm going to be a priest. And that was great. Everyone at the table heard, I'm going to be the dedicated healer.
True story.
Including me, who should have known better. That's what I heard. And we get the game started. They're in this fight for their life. And I'm like, dude, throw out some heals. And he goes, oh, I didn't create that kind of a priest.
Actually, I think his exact wording was, I'm not that kind of a priest.
I'm not that kind of a priest. And everyone went, what? No, he
Wait,
had built a
hold on.
tanking DPS kind of priest, not prone to healing. He had no healing spells prepared. And everyone just went, well, crap. So it is important when someone says, I'm going to be XYZ, that you go, great. What
does that
kind?
mean? What does that mean?
does
So
that mean?
to add on to that, I think that it's 1 second. We're
We're gonna get a coffee.
coffee.
Woo, we're
and
gonna
throw the
drop you
phone.
guys.
We're gonna drop you guys.
We're gonna get our coffee. We're gonna drop you guys, and so you can see the lovely interior of our
Hey,
car.
you guys.
Hey.
Hey. It's been a while. I mean, I saw you yesterday, but I just thumbs up at you, so. How's it been going?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Anything, I don't know, exciting happening lately for you guys?
Same old, same old. SSDD.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
SSDD.
SSDD.
That's right. My mom would always say that when I was a kid. I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, don't worry about it. I'll tell you when
You'll
you're
figure
older.
it out
You'll
later.
figure it out when you're
exactly.
older, yeah.
Or like the, I don't know, she was really big on like whatever their acronyms, I think is what they were.
Yeah.
So she's really big on that. We're like, AWOL and like, KISS or something, like keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was she in the military?
No.
Was
definitely not.
Was your
Yeah.
dad in the military?
No.
Oh, weird.
No. I mean, her cousin was.
Might
She
have
was
been
like
where
a
it
drill
came
sergeant,
from.
So maybe it just kind of like trickled
kind of filtered down.
Maybe it
Yeah.
trickles in.
Yeah. Were you guys in the military?
No.
Oh, okay. It just happens that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. But yeah, same for me.
I
think,
tried.
like,
They wouldn't take
the
me.
little things like kind of just like end up like, I don't know, happening, and then you're like, it's not really that exciting. Like we're just like chilling,
Yep.
But my sister's actually moving up to Phoenix, which is really exciting.
That's
So
cool.
I guess that's like my big deal.
Cool.
'Cause we're both from Tucson, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so she
okay.
graduated U of A, and now she's moving up here. So haven't lived in the same city as her since I moved up here in 2010. So
Right on.
That's
That should
pretty
be
exciting,
fun. I
but
mean, as
other
long
than
as
that,
you like your sister.
kind of nothing, anything. Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Right on.
But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. Moving on up in the world, Dope. So there's gonna be our caramelizer and our German chocolate.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great day.
See you soon.
So, sorry about dropping you guys. We've actually ordered a pod so that won't happen anymore, but it hasn't come in yet. So,
Yeah. So you're in
Ne-
danger. It's Dangerland.
Yeah, this is in danger of being flipped off of my dashboard because that's where we stash you.
Yep.
Sorry
about it, guys.
So anyhow, to expand on the concept of helping your players talk to each other about their characters beyond character class, I think that you really have to. I don't know why I'm unbuckling my seatbelt.
I don't
That's
know.
just silly.
You can.
You have to take the time to keep your players from just nose down on their character sheet and have them actually talk to each other about what their character is going to be, so that you don't end up with somebody who comes to the table with this great concept and says, I'm going to be the cleric, or I'm going to be the priest. And everybody hears when somebody says that, they hear in their ear, in their mind, I'm going to be the healer. Because that's what you're saying without saying it.
A good rule of thumb, which I haven't done in the past, but I am going to start doing this now, which is no books for the first 5 minutes. No one's allowed to crack open the player handbook for the first 5 to 10 minutes of session 0, where you're talking about characters. So they don't have the option of just, I'm going to start building my character and I'll listen with one ear. No books.
All right, so I think we've beat that horse.
Yeah, with a stick. Ready?
Well, let's not beat horses with stick. It's not very nice.
No, I like horses.
True story.
Should session 0 be a one-on-one event?
Now,
It can be, but
it can
no,
be.
yes, no.
So I put that question in there because watching some of the online games.
Okay.
Especially, and again, we go back to Matt Mercer. He has, in some instances, held one-on-one session zeros.
Oh, I see.
And so it can be a one-on-one event. However, I think that if you are doing that, then you as the game master really have to
a lot of responsibility
to set the expectation much, much higher on what comes out of that session 0. I feel like you have to be able to very clearly explain what all of the other players are going to be playing. You have to be able to very clearly articulate that and help all of your players create characters that are going to fit within your world and within your game during that campaign. Matt Mercer is phenomenal at it, by the way. So there you go.
So he's allowed.
He's allowed.
He's allowed.
We all aspire to be as good as Matt Mercer.
Do we? I kind of aspire to be better than him.
Fair enough.
Anything you can do, I can do better. What?
What? Nothing. I didn't say anything.
What is a session 0 gotcha that you've blundered into?
All of them. So reasonably, session 0 gotchas. Expecting that the person who says I'm playing the cleric is going to be a healer. Expecting the person that says I'm going to play the barbarian to be a tank.
I have
or a DPS.
I have done the one where I don't do a very good job at expressing what the game is, and I've talked about this before. I had a lot of
clearly defining the campaign.
Yeah,
type.
we ran a lot of campaigns where the bad guy was just the bad guy, and you kill the bad guy because the bad guy's the bad guy. And then I tried to switch to kind of a Machiavellian game, and I didn't really express that well to my players who had been playing with me for a while. And so I really got things messy because they were expecting the bad guy to be the bad guy. You kill the bad guy because he's the bad guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, there's a lot of them. As many things that as everything that you should do in session 0, there is a way for this to go wrong. And
for it to come back and bite you in the posterior.
Yep, and you know what? Don't freak out. Don't worry about getting it wrong. Because you're going to have some great session 0s. You're going to have some really crappy session 0s. It's happened to all of us.
Very true.
I bet it's even happened to Matt Mercer.
Probably.
Anyway, should players arrive to session 0 with a complete character?
I'm going to pull a Letterkenny and go hard no.
Hard no.
That is a hard no. And it's simply because the point of session 0 is for everyone to get together, create their characters, and talk about and negotiate how the game and campaign is going to be played.
For example, if everybody comes to your session 0 and all of a sudden you realize that they've brought... 3 different people have brought a barbarian, and 2 people have brought knights, and another person has brought, there's only 1 person who managed to bring a wizard. That is not going to be, unless your campaign is geared towards all like fighter type characters, that's not going to be a very successful party.
Right. It's not going to be a very successful game either.
So even if they've got really cool characters and really well thought out ideas and great backgrounds, it's not just about the player, but it's also about the party.
True.
So, yeah. All right, next question. Do you always have to hold a session 0?
No, but I highly recommend that you do.
Yeah.
Simply because it allows you to establish a lot more things than just characters and gameplay style.
You know, and I know some people who are really, really busy, so their session 0s all kind of happen online, which, if you have a group that is okay with that and they're really good about doing that sort of thing online,
you can totally
possible.
do it via forums or emails or messages. You don't have to necessarily do it in person, though. If you're playing in person, it's probably a good idea.
My players are a little technophobic. I love them, but there's a reason they like desktop games. No, I'm kidding. But they don't like the technology. I think one of them even has a flip phone. It's great.
They avoid the social media significantly.
Yeah, so we always
makes life
do
a bit
ours
difficult.
at table.
Yep.
What should players be doing during session 0 other than making characters?
Other than making characters, they should be talking to each other about their characters, about their character archetype, about the game world, about their.
Oh, I tried to breathe coffee.
Breathing coffee.
Oh.
As we all know, it's a terrible idea.
Oh my God.
So anyhow,
I wish I could live off coffee like that, like in a little pool of coffee, but that does not work.
You okay?
Holy crap!
Not
Okay,
gonna die?
good. I'm good.
All right. So anyhow, so session 0, the players should be establishing their relationships. They should be talking about the game. They should be giving you feedback on the style of game. They should be working with you to develop how their character is going to fit within the world. There are a million things that everybody should be doing, and no one answer is going to fit the bill, but they should definitely be focusing on more than just character creation.
Right. Okay. What character class would you recommend for a player who has never played an RPG before? Ooh, newbies! Yay!
Newbies, fighters, and rogues. And I do mean straight fighter, straight rogue.
I agree with that. Like, either just a straight knight or a straight barbarian or a rogue.
A straight barbarian can be pretty good. They do get a little more complex as they get into later levels, whereas I think the fighter and the rogue stay very, very streamlined and simplified.
If they really, really want to play a complex character, and we've talked about this before, have them come and make a battle plan with you so that they get all the benefits of those complex characters, but they don't feel like they're holding up combat.
And that's also something that you can do during session 0 with all of your players, is establish those battle plans.
I do like establishing battle plans. It's something we're going to do. All right. Are you done?
I'm done. Let's go.
Okay.
Moving on.
What is the benefit of having a session 0? Oh, I think this we kind of answered. We've been answering this for the last 18 minutes.
We've kind of been answering that for the past 18 minutes. Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
And the short answer is it allows you to establish all of the parameters of your game.
How do I set my players up for success during character creation? We've kind of been talking about that also.
So I actually left that one in there very, very specifically. So
I'm not going to breathe it this time.
Hey, look, she didn't breathe it. So during character creation, there are a lot of things that happen and can happen, and I think that if you can remove variables for your players, just like in anything else, you can improve their ability to have a successful character.
I'm still finding coffee on me.
So variables, questions about the character creation process, questions about what source material is actually allowed, questions about table rules that impact character creation, anything that directly impacts character creation should be spelled out in your handout in its own section, so that when your players put their noses to the paper to actually create their characters, they have the most resources available to them to be successful in that process.
One of the things I always say, I
And
tell
clear
my,
campaign expectations.
my players is go find some of those stupid, like, online, tell us about yourself, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color, when was the last time you cried? Fill it out as your character. Like, it can be kind of a fun exercise to get into the head space of this other person.
All right, we've got no more time, but we're going to do one more question.
All right.
For reasons.
Actually, I am going to put the questions down. I'm going to give you guys some stuff. As players, here are a few questions that you should be asking your dungeon master on session 0. 1, what is the style of this game? Is it going to be combat heavy, or is it going to be roleplay heavy? Or are you planning to kind of make a nice balance? Because the characters I tend to play during roleplay are not the characters that I usually tend to play during, like, straight dungeon crawls. So that's a good thing to establish with the dungeon master.
And you should also establish or verify what style of campaign it's going to be. Whether it's going to be a dungeon crawl, open world, if it's going to be hex crawl. Those can impact your decision making as a player when you're creating your character as well.
And you definitely should be asking about table rules. And those are just basic things like, I don't mind if characters have arguments during my games. I mean, you're going to have it. Like, somebody thinks you should climb the mountain, the other person thinks you should go down to the valley. That sort of thing is okay. I do not let my players attack each other. I will not let one player look at another and go, why would you do that? That's stupid.
Yeah, so player to player arguments are not allowed at either of our tables. Character to character arguments are they're in game.
Well,
they're part of the
disagree.
game.
That's
Yeah,
fine. It's the name calling I draw a line
Yeah,
at.
exactly.
Find out the rules about cursing, about sexual encounters. Those things should things that should be spelled out to you before the game begins.
And there's a very lengthy, well put together Reddit post that was made by, I can't remember his name now. A user on the D&D Reddit. I will post a link to it in the video description. It's well worth the read, regardless of whether you're a player or a dungeon master. It gives you it's a very clear, very good, comprehensive set. I can't word today. It's a very comprehensive set of.
This.
Yeah, I know.
You haven't breathed it like I.
She's not helping here. It's a very comprehensive set of topics to discuss during session 0. It's excellent. I will include it in the description. And I think that's really all we have time for.
Well, our leftover session 0 questions will get added to our regular box.
Or maybe we'll do another session 0 episode later.
Yeah, maybe.
Part 2. But thank you for joining us. What's our next topic going to be?
Our next topic is...
We talked about this.
I know we talked about this. We talked about it. We had decided on it. Something to do with... Because we were going to kind of go in order after session 0. We were going to talk about character backgrounds. Is that what
I think we were going to
doing?
talk about character creation in general.
Yeah, so our next topic is character creation. If it wasn't before, it is now.
It is now. We have committed.
We've committed.
So if you have questions about character creation, or you'd like to ask us other questions, please leave them in the comments below.
If you have more questions about session 0, we'll probably circle back to it because we got a lot left in the little paint box.
Yeah, we do. And make sure to click the like and subscribe and the little bell so that you get notifications. Yep. And join us again next week. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Good adventuring.